Hi, this is Mike. In this video, it's just going to be a really quick one with a few sort of hints and tips for anybody who wants to be a presenter on Integration Monday. And the idea is we tend to spend every week we spend a few hours with whoever that week's presenter is going to be, just kind of helping get them up to speed with the controls for Join Me. So with this little video, the plan's to just kind of give a little bit of a demonstration of how you would, what you would do as a presenter, just to kind of make life easier for everybody. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to set up a quick meeting, and I've got two PCs running at home. So you're going to see the PC that would be the presenter, whereas my other PC that you won't see is going to be the host. So imagine when you're presenting at the meeting, that other PC would represent me as the host of the meeting who'll start it off. So the first thing you need to do to join the meeting is if you get the Join Me client application, so you would need to go to join.me as the website. So I'll just drag that in and show you. And if you go down the bottom of the page, and you can download their apps, and you want the desktop application, so either the Mac or the Windows one, depending on what you're presenting on. And that'll kind of give you the client to be able to join now. BizTalk 360 provide the Join Me platform for us for Integration Monday. So to join their meeting, you need to use the BizTalk 360 code in the join box, and then if you click the green button, then you'll join the call. Okay, so just need a moment while while the meeting fires up. Okay, so when you join the meeting, you may get this screen depending on whether the presenters actually opened the meeting up or not. But if you get this screen, just knock to join, and then the host of the meeting can unlock the meeting, and you'll come in and you'll see something like this screen here. Now, the first thing to do is that would be the presentation slides that the host of the meeting's shared, or you may, if the slides aren't shared yet, you may see a blank background. So the key thing to note from here is the controls on the top. So at this point, you're in attendee mode, you're not presenting, but there's a couple of controls here. So you've got the control on the right, lets you do a few things like exit the meeting, request control. The person one lets you see who's in the meeting, so you can see I've got Mike host and Mike presenter. And one of the things here is if you hover over your name, if you show up for some reason as viewer 15 or something like that, if you hover over, you can change your name here. Now that's really quite important, because when we pass control between different people on the meeting, we need to be able to work out who's who on this list. So it'd be really useful if you can set your name, and then I'd be able to pass presenter mode to you. Now the next one is the chat window. So here you've got chat window where somebody can write questions. So for example, if I on the other PC write a question in here, you'll see that show up, and you can choose on the bottom here, you can choose to direct questions to everybody or specific users. Now we'll come back to the chat window later on. So the first thing you need to do is, at the moment when you first join the call, you won't get audio. So the thing to do is click on the telephone button and call by computer or by telephone. So if you're presenting, it's best if you can call by computer, because then you'll get a seamless experience of what you're using on the desktop plus your voice over IP. So if you call the meeting by computer, you'll get a confirmation that you've joined the conference, and a couple of controls on here then, so just a few to note. So this button here would mute your microphone. This button here would set your volume. So now you're fully connected to the meeting, and if Mike host was doing some stuff on the other screen, you could see he could move forward the presentation slides and stuff like that. So when the meeting starts off, as the host of the meeting, I'd come in and I'd do an introduction to who's going to be speaking that week, what they're going to be talking about, and I'll do a few shout outs about other things that are going on in the community at that time. Now, the next point is I'm going to hand the meeting over now. So on the other computer, what I'll do is I'll hover over excuse me, the user called Mike Presenter, and you won't be able to see this because it's on the other computer, but it would be what I'd be doing behind the scenes, and I'd pass you the presenter role. So you'll get a little prompt here saying, would you like to present? And I'll click accept. And now I'm going to be in presenter mode. So my other screen has the screen share started straight away. So you can see here you'll get this extra button, and by default it'll just start sharing your screen, so you can choose to click that button and pause it, and everybody will just see a default kind of like a blank screen with a message saying that it's been paused, or you can choose to share a screen or share a window. Now what you would see is I think I can, yeah, so I've kind of moved this around now. So what you could see is you'll get a little orange if you've got multiple monitors, for example. So I've got 3 monitors at home, and I get a little orange sort of square around the edge of the monitor, which shows me which monitor it is that I'm sharing at that point in time. So so I can just share one of my monitors, show people what's going on that monitor. And it's quite handy because you can use the other monitors to have the controls on and stuff. So if you imagine, I've got my presentation up now, so I can start showing people some of the stuff in my presentation, and I need to make sure that when I go into presenter mode, I need to make sure that I set the monitors correctly. So if you imagine when you go in presenter mode, you'll get one of your monitors will have your, if you've got multiple, have your notes, slides on and stuff. So you need to make sure you know which monitor you're sharing with the audience. Now, when you're in presenter mode, so remember I passed that over before, you'll notice that on the controls down here, there's the telephone control. You've got a couple of extra controls now. So the first one is the little bell here, so that plays a sound when somebody new joins the call. It's worth making sure that that one's set to off, because you might get quite a few people join, and that would be really quite annoying. The most important one is this one here. So that's the second microphone, and the difference here is that one up here where the mouse is would mute yourself. This one down at the bottom would mute everybody else on the call. So when you want to start presenting and doing your presentation, the first thing to do before you start is if you press that button, and you'll get a prompt on the audio that will say the session's now converted to presenter mode, which means everybody else on the call gets muted. So you'll see I got a little prompt there. Now when you click it, it's worth just give it a second or two, because I've found just as in practice it doesn't click on immediately, so I assume that there's some join me stuff happens behind the scenes. So click it, wait a second or two, and then you'll see it go red, and hopefully that will have everybody else will be muted and you'll now be in presenter mode. And just any time you see that here marked with a red line through it, then you know that you're the only person who can be heard on the call. Now when you first go into presenter mode and you start speaking, what I normally do is just pop the chat window open and just ask on the call, just ask if everybody can hear you okay, and usually people will just give you a confirmation on the chat window, something like that, just to say yes, I can hear. And then at that point you're fine to do your presentation. So as long as you've got the screen share button up here, where it's shown that you're sharing your screen, you've muted everybody else, then you're good to get on into the presentation. So most presentations will be somewhere between about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on what we've agreed in advance. The During the presentation, you may get people comment in the chat window. Now, it's kind of worth not overly spending too much time looking at it, but just kind of keep an eye on it, because if for some reason you get any technical problems during the call, you might spot people putting some comments in there about sound. Now, because it's a global conference call, we every now and again we'll get the odd person might have an intermittent audio problem, or may struggle to see the screen, but usually it just fixes itself within a second or two, and it only very occasionally affects the odd user. If a lot of people are starting to get problems, then it's kind of worth keeping an eye, just because you'll see that there. When you're doing your presentation, then I guess as you get to the end of it, to a Q&A section, there's two things to watch for. So the first one is people will be putting questions in the chat window during the session, so it's worth at the end, you can kind of come in here and have a scroll through the questions and see if there's anything that you'd want to pick up and answer. The other thing is on the user group website, so if I bring that in now, you may see in the live discussion section over here, you'll see that there'll be one discussion forum per event. So your event would have its own discussion forum. People may also add questions here as well. So the key difference is that questions added here are intended for people to be able to pick up later, and these questions will be around all the time. Any questions on the chat window get lost at the end of the meeting. So our preference is that people put discussion questions in the forum, but in practice they tend to do it more in the chat. But it's worth just having a look at both to see what things people are talking about. Now, at the end of your event, we have the event calendar, so we'll put things in here about previous events. So you can see if we go back a month. So you can see we go back a month and you can see all the previous meetings. So clicking on a meeting, you'll see that there'll be an overview of what it was about, who the speakers were, the video, and the presentation slides. So at the end of the meeting, we'll be recording the video during the session. So you may see there's a little red icon up here on your Join Me toolbar. That would indicate the meeting's being recorded. But at the end of the meeting, if you could send your slides over, and we'll get them put up on the website for people to look at later. And I guess the last thing to really mention is a couple of tips. So just my little tips from when I've presented. I've found it's really useful if you've got a second monitor, just for the ability to put that chat window and the discussion forums on a separate page, in a separate monitor. I think that's just something I've found personally quite handy. Also, if you've got like another PC or a mobile, I've found sometimes it's quite handy to be able to just join the meeting. So I usually join it from my phone on the Join Me app. Just join the meeting just so you can check what people see. Because one of the challenges of presenting online is that you don't really know exactly what the audience are viewing. So we had a couple of sessions where people had accidentally had PowerPoint running on the wrong monitor, and people could see their notes slide. And as a presenter, you wouldn't, if you didn't realise you'd done that, you wouldn't know unless you spotted somebody mention it in the chat window. Whereas when you very first get going, just check it on the phone, make sure that you're happy with what the audience can see, and then you can just turn the phone off. But otherwise, we've tended to find everything's pretty straightforward. I'll usually swap some contact details with the presenter before the meeting, so if there's any problems, you can give me a shout and I can kind of step in and help out. But otherwise, I hope this video is pretty useful for people to understand how to present on Integration Monday.